Earth had always been a small and insignificant planet in the eyes of the galaxy's greatest empire. For centuries, humans had lived in peace, unaware of the powerful secret hidden deep within their world. The alien empire, known as the Zorath, believed that Earth was just another weak, undeveloped world to conquer. They had already enslaved millions of humans across the galaxy and thought this last invasion would be no different. They were wrong. It all started with a sudden attack. The Zorath fleet descended upon Earth without warning, their massive warships blocking out the sun. They destroyed satellites and communication lines in seconds, making Earth's defenses useless. The world was thrown into chaos. Cities were bombed, and millions of people were taken as prisoners. The Zorath were unstoppable. In the midst of the destruction, a group of humans, unknown to anyone, stumbled upon something incredible. Deep beneath the surface of the Earth, in an old abandoned military bunker, they found an ancient door. This was no ordinary door. The symbols carved into it were unlike anything they had seen before, old, forgotten, and almost magical. Adam, a young scientist, was among the first to find it. He had been searching for a way to stop the Zorath, but he had never imagined this. The door was sealed, but there was a strange energy surrounding it, something that pulled him in. His curiosity got the better of him, and with the help of his friends, Jenna, a skilled engineer, and David, a former soldier, they worked together to open the door. As soon as the door creaked open, they were hit by a strange, powerful force. It felt like the ground beneath them was shaking, but the sensation wasn't physical. It was something deeper, like the very air around them had come alive. Inside the room, they found an ancient device, glowing faintly. It was a machine unlike anything they had seen before, but its purpose was clear. It was a weapon designed to destroy entire fleets, even entire planets. This is the power humanity was meant to wield, Adam said, his voice filled with awe. The machine was connected to a network of wires and energy sources, as though it had been waiting for someone to awaken it. There were no instructions, no guidance, but they could feel it. This weapon was built to unleash untold power. The three of them didn't understand how it worked, but they knew it had to be the key to stopping the Zorath. Meanwhile, the Zorath were advancing quickly. They had already taken control of several major cities and were preparing for the final assault on Earth's last remaining strongholds. Earth's leaders were desperate, but there seemed to be no hope. The Zorath had the technology, the numbers, and the strength to crush any resistance. However, the humans in the bunker had something the Zorath couldn't even begin to imagine. They didn't know how to use the weapon at first, but they knew one thing: it had to be activated. With Jenna's engineering skills, Adam's scientific knowledge, and David's military experience, they managed to power up the device. The room was filled with a blinding light as the machine hummed to life. The walls of the bunker trembled, and the ground shook as though the Earth itself had awoken from a deep slumber. Suddenly, the sky outside darkened. The Zorath fleet, still hundreds of miles above the Earth, felt the power of the weapon. The energy from the device sent a pulse through the atmosphere, and the Zorath warships began to malfunction. The air was filled with static, and their advanced systems failed. Ships started falling from the sky, crashing into the ground below, exploding in fiery chaos. The Zorath commanders were stunned. They had never experienced anything like this. How could humans, weak, insignificant creatures, possess such power? But this was just the beginning. Adam, Jenna, and David knew they had only one chance to fully unleash the weapon before the Zorath could recover. The power inside the machine was growing stronger with every passing second, and they could feel the weight of it. It was both terrifying and exhilarating. The three of them shared a brief glance before Adam stepped forward. "We need to use it all." "We end this now," he said, determination in his voice. Jenna pressed the final button, and the machine released its full potential. A beam of energy shot up into the sky, piercing through the clouds and striking the Zorath fleet. The shockwave rippled across space, destroying warships and sending debris raining down to Earth. The Zorath forces, once so confident and powerful, were now scattered and broken. The power of the ancient weapon was too much for even the Zorath to handle. Their greatest empire crumbled in a matter of hours, and Earth was free once again. However, the weapon had not come without a cost. The energy it released had caused massive damage to the planet itself. Earth was scarred, and many cities lay in ruins. But the humans who had unlocked the power knew that this was only the beginning. They had awakened something ancient, and it had saved them. But as the dust settled and the Zorth fleet was destroyed, one question lingered in their minds. What other secrets did Earth still hold? And how long before others came seeking the power they had unleashed? The story of Earth's victory was just the start of a new chapter. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate humanity, for they may be weak in numbers, but they hold the power to destroy entire empires. The galaxy had long been ruled by the Zorth Empire, an unstoppable force that crushed every world in its path. They were feared by all, known for their advanced technology and ruthless armies. Earth was no different. The Zorth had invaded, enslaving millions and taking control of the planet's resources. They believed humanity was weak, nothing more than a speck in the universe. They could not have been more wrong. It all began when a small group of resistance fighters gathered in the ruins of a destroyed city. Among them was Maya, a young woman who had lost everything to the Zorth, including her family. Her only mission now was to stop the Empire, no matter the cost. But she wasn't alone. There was Caleb, a former soldier with unmatched combat skills, and Sarah, a brilliant hacker with a mind sharp enough to break into any system. Together, they formed the last hope for Earth's freedom. The resistance had been quiet for years, working in the shadows, gathering information, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They had learned one thing: the Zorth's power came from their central control system, a massive satellite that commanded their fleets and allowed them to monitor every corner of the galaxy. If they could destroy it, the Zorth would fall. But there was one problem getting to it. The satellite was hidden in the heart of the Zorth's capital, a heavily guarded fortress on a distant planet. Maya and her team knew it was nearly impossible to reach, but they had no choice. Earth's future depended on it. They made their way through the dark streets of the rebel base, each step more dangerous than the last. The Zorth were always watching, always listening, but Maya felt a fire burning inside her. This was their chance. This was the moment to change everything. "We need to move fast," Caleb said, looking over his shoulder as if the walls themselves might be listening. Maya nodded. "We've been waiting for this day for too long. Let's make it count." With Sarah's help, they hacked into the Zorth's communications network, sending out false signals that would mislead the Empire's patrols. For the first time, they had the element of surprise. The Zorth wouldn't know what hit them. As they approached the launch site, the tension in the air was thick. Maya felt her heart pounding, but she refused to show fear. This was it. They reached the underground hangar where their stolen ship was parked, a small, fast vessel capable of breaking through the Empire's defenses. They had only one shot at this. "Ready?" Maya asked, turning to her team. "We don't have a choice," Caleb replied, a grin on his face. It was the grin of someone who knew that failure wasn't an option. The ship took off, cutting through the atmosphere at incredible speed. The stars blurred as they traveled toward the Zorth's capital. The mission was dangerous, but they had trained for this moment. Maya focused on the task ahead, pushing aside the fear that threatened to rise. They would succeed or they would die trying. As they neared the Zorth's fortress, Sarah's fingers flew across the control panel, slicing through security systems and creating a way for them to land without being detected. They were almost there. The fortress loomed ahead, its towering walls bristling with weapons. Maya could feel the weight of the mission bearing down on her. One wrong move, and they would all be dead. But there was no turning back. This was their moment. They landed near the fortress, hidden in the shadows. Caleb and Maya geared up, preparing for the final push. The Zorth forces would soon realize something was wrong, and when they did, it would be too late. They made their way through the maze of corridors, avoiding patrols and using their knowledge of the Zorth's security systems to stay undetected. Every step brought them closer to the heart of the Empire. The central control room was just ahead. Inside the control room, the heart of the Empire's power was waiting. The massive satellite was connected to the control systems of every Zorth ship in the galaxy. If they could destroy it, the Empire would be crippled. Maya's breath quickened as they approached the core of the room, where the main console sat, glowing with power. "This is it," Sarah whispered, her voice full of tension. "One shot, and it's over." But just as they were about to set the charges, the door slammed open. The Zorath had figured out what they were up to. The alarms blared, and soldiers flooded the room, their weapons aimed at the humans. Maya's heart raced. They had been discovered. They were surrounded. Caleb didn't hesitate. He drew his gun and fired, taking out several soldiers in the first few seconds. Maya and Sarah fought back, using every skill they had learned. It was chaos, but they kept moving, determined to finish the job. As the last Zorath soldier fell, Maya rushed to the console. Her hands shook as she set the charges, knowing that if they didn't succeed, they would all die in this room. With one final push, she activated the detonator. A massive explosion shook the fortress. The control room erupted in flames as the satellite's power was severed. The Zorath's fleet, their greatest weapon, fell silent. They were no longer in control. The Empire was finished. The Resistance had done the impossible. They had struck the heart of the Empire and destroyed it. But there was no time to celebrate. The battle wasn't over, but the Zorath would never recover from this blow. Maya, Caleb, and Sarah left the fortress, knowing that their fight was far from done. They had only one mission now, to lead the rebellion to victory. The Empire had fallen, not because of some great army or advanced technology, but because of the courage of a few determined humans. And that was enough. The galaxy trembled with the rise of the Vulgar Empire, a massive force that spread fear across countless planets. Their fleet was unbeatable, their warriors fierce, and their weapons more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Earth, a tiny and forgotten world, was a mere target to the Vulgar. They arrived without warning, their ships blotting out the sky. They believed humanity would be an easy conquest. But they did not know that humans had hidden something far beyond their understanding. It all began when the Vulgar set foot on Earth. They began their invasion with full force, crushing cities, enslaving people, and tearing apart the very heart of humanity. But even as they conquered, something strange was happening beneath the surface of the Earth. For centuries, a power, long forgotten, was quietly waiting for the right moment to awaken. In a secret underground lab, hidden deep in the mountains, Dr. Emma Rivers and her team of scientists discovered an ancient structure, something buried by time itself. They had been researching Earth's hidden history, piecing together clues that hinted at something incredible beneath their feet. But when Emma's team finally cracked the code, they uncovered an entrance to an ancient chamber filled with technology older than any known civilization. This can't be real," Emma whispered, staring at the glowing symbols and advanced machinery that had been hidden for thousands of years. How could something this powerful have been forgotten? But it wasn't forgotten. It had been waiting. Emma, along with her team, worked around the clock to study the chamber. They discovered that it wasn't just an artifact. It was a weapon capable of destroying entire worlds, a relic of an ancient human civilization that had once ruled the stars, far beyond what the Vulgar or any other empire could ever imagine. This weapon had the power to turn planets into ashes. The Vulgar continued their rampage across Earth. Emma realized that this weapon was the key to stopping them. The ancient power was ready to be awakened, but only by those who understood its true potential. However, she and her team had no idea just how powerful it really was or how dangerous it could be if misused. "We have to use this. We have no choice," Emma said, her voice full of determination. Her team knew she was right, but fear lingered in their eyes. They didn't fully understand the weapon, but the Vulgar were growing stronger with each passing day. If they didn't act now, Earth would be lost forever. They activated the ancient machine, and the ground trembled. The sky above darkened, as though the Earth itself was awakening. The weapon hummed to life, glowing with an energy that sent waves of heat rippling through the lab. Emma watched in awe and fear as the machine powered up. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was not just a weapon, it was a force of nature. Suddenly, the room was filled with blinding light. The machine began to send out waves of energy, shaking the very core of the planet. It was too much to control. The energy surged, and Emma and her team scrambled to adjust the settings, but it was too late. The power was unstoppable now. The Vulgar fleet, still hovering above Earth, suddenly began to experience strange interference. Their ships started to malfunction, their weapon systems shutting down one by one. Their commanders were confused, unable to understand what was happening. "It's working, Caleb," one of Emma's team members said with a mixture of relief and horror. "But we need to stop it before it goes too far." But stopping it wasn't easy. The weapon was now controlling itself, and the energy it was emitting was only growing stronger. Emma could feel the ground shaking beneath her feet, and the air around them felt thick with power. The entire planet was at the mercy of a weapon that even the Vulgar had no defense against. Meanwhile, the Vulgar were in chaos. Their fleet was losing power, their ships falling from the sky like broken toys. They were used to being in control, used to crushing entire civilizations with their advanced technology. But now they were powerless. "Get us out of here," shouted General Vorkin, the leader of the Vulgar fleet. But it was too late. The weapon's power continued to grow, and Earth's skies erupted with explosions of energy. Vulgar ships were torn apart in an instant, disintegrating into nothing but dust and debris. As the weapon's power reached its peak, the Vulgar fleet was completely wiped out, not a single ship remaining in the sky. The weapon had destroyed them all. Earth was safe, but at what cost? Emma and her team stood in the lab, exhausted and terrified. The weapon had worked, but it had nearly destroyed everything in its wake. The sky was still glowing from the energy it had released, and the ground was still trembling beneath their feet. "We did it," Caleb whispered, but his voice lacked victory. "But I don't know if we can control it. This power. It's too much." Emma nodded, staring at the machine that had saved Earth, yet nearly destroyed it as well. She knew they had to find a way to seal the power away, to keep it from ever being used again. They couldn't risk this weapon falling into the wrong hands. It was too dangerous. As they left the underground lab, Emma looked back at the ancient machine, knowing that humanity had just awoken a power beyond imagination. The Vulgar were gone, but the question remained, what would humanity do with this power now? Would they use it wisely, or would it be their downfall? The fate of the galaxy had shifted forever. The power that destroyed worlds had been unleashed, and no one could predict what would happen next. The Vulgar Empire thought they had already conquered Earth. Their ships filled the sky, their soldiers marched across the cities, and their weapons were unstoppable. For years, humanity had suffered under their cruel rule. Entire cities had been wiped out, millions of people enslaved, and every attempt to fight back had failed. But the Vulgar had no idea what lay beneath Earth's surface. They never imagined that the rage of an entire species, hidden for centuries, would soon awaken. In a remote underground military facility, Dr. Lucas Harper and his team of researchers were working on something that had been buried for generations. They had been studying ancient records, and one mysterious text had caught their attention. It spoke of a weapon, not of technology, but of something far more dangerous, something deep within humanity itself. A force of pure rage, a power so intense it could shatter planets. The weapon had been forgotten by time, hidden away by Earth's early civilizations. They had created it to protect themselves from the universe's most powerful enemies. But after generations of peace, the secret was lost. Now, it was the last hope for Earth's survival. Dr. Harper stood over the ancient console, his fingers trembling. The room was filled with the hum of old machinery, long dormant and now coming to life. As he and his team activated the control system, the room began to shake. Energy surged through the facility, and the walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The weapon was awakening. "We've found it. It's real," Lucas said, his voice filled with disbelief and awe. He had expected a weapon of technology, not something that harnessed the very emotions of humanity. "It's not just a weapon. It's rage." The team was stunned, unsure how to react. It seemed impossible. Could humanity's anger, the anger they had been forced to suppress for so long, really be turned into something so powerful? The vulgar, unaware of what was happening, continued their reign of terror. They'd enslaved humanity's last remaining free forces, leaving no resistance. But as the weapon's power began to build, Earth's survivors started to feel something in overwhelming anger, a fire deep within them that had been locked away for so long. The emotion was contagious, spreading like wildfire across the planet. People who had once been broken, defeated, were now filled with a rage they couldn't explain. Emma, a former soldier turned resistance leader, felt it first. She had been hiding in the ruins of a city, watching her people suffer under the vulgar's rule. But then, something changed. The anger she had been suppressing for years, the fury over her fallen comrades, over the destruction of her world, it all came rushing back. And it wasn't just her. All over the world, people began to feel the same. The anger that had been dormant for centuries was now erupting. "We can't keep this bottled up anymore," Emma whispered to her comrades. "We've been fighting with our hands tied. But now, we fight with everything we've got." Back at the facility, Dr. Harper and his team were realizing that the weapon was no longer just a tool, it was alive. The power of human rage had fused with the ancient technology, amplifying it beyond their control. The machine was now feeding on humanity's anger, growing stronger with every passing second. "The vulgar have no idea what they've unleashed," Dr. Harper muttered, as he stared at the glowing energy fields around the weapon. "This is beyond anything we ever imagined." The world outside was changing. The people of Earth, once subjugated and weak, were now waking up to their true power. In every corner of the planet, human rage became a weapon. The vulgar soldiers, who had once been an unstoppable force, began to panic as they faced the overwhelming fury of humanity. Emma and her resistance fighters moved forward with renewed strength. They attacked the vulgar's supply lines, freeing prisoners and tearing down their communication towers. Everywhere they went, the vulgar felt the force of human rage pushing back. It was unlike anything they had ever faced. They had underestimated humanity's spirit, and now they were paying the price. The vulgar commanders scrambled to maintain control, but it was already too late. Their fleets began to fall apart as human fighters, filled with rage and fueled by years of suffering, fought back with an intensity they had never expected. The power of the weapon was not just in the machines, it was in the people. It was in the collective fury of every human who had ever been wronged by the vulgar. "This is it," Emma shouted to her troops as they stormed a vulgar stronghold. "We fight not just for survival, but for every person they've ever hurt." The battle raged on. Earth's people were no longer just fighting to defend their homes. They were fighting to take back everything the vulgar had stolen. And with every passing minute, their rage grew stronger, the weapon growing more powerful. With IT.as the final vulgar strongholds crumbled, the Earth's weapon reached its full potential. It was no longer just a tool, it was a force of nature. A wave of destructive energy surged across the planet, and the vulgar's fleet, once so mighty, was completely annihilated in an instant. Their ships were torn apart, their soldiers reduced to nothing. In the aftermath, the skies cleared, and the Earth's people stood victorious. The rage that had once been their enemy had become their greatest weapon, and it had led them to freedom. But as the dust settled, Dr. Harper and Emma knew something important. The weapon had been unleashed, and while the vulgar were defeated, there was still a great deal of power left in the world. The question now was how humanity would use it. The weapon had awakened, and the rage of the people had destroyed an empire, but at what cost? "We've won," Emma said quietly, "but this power. We need to control it, or it could destroy us too." The world had changed forever. Humanity had unleashed a power that had torn apart an empire, but the real challenge was what came next. Could humanity learn to harness its rage, or would it become their undoing? The Zorith Empire was the most feared force in the galaxy. Their soldiers were brutal, their ships unmatched, and their technology advanced beyond comprehension. For centuries, they had conquered planet after planet, crushing all resistance beneath their boots. Earth, once a quiet and peaceful world, had fallen like so many others. The Zorith had come without mercy, enslaving humanity and bending it to their will. The people of Earth were nothing more than tools to the Empire. or so they thought. But they were wrong. No one had ever dared challenge the Zorath in their own territory, and they saw no reason to fear the humans. They believed humans were weak, primitive creatures too soft to ever pose a real threat. They didn't know what lay hidden in the hearts of Earth's people. The rebellion had been building slowly, working in the shadows, planning. But the truth was, humans had more power than anyone had ever guessed. And the day was coming when the Zorath would understand that power all too well. It all began with Maya, a young woman who had lost her family to the Empire's cruelty. She had grown up hearing stories of the old world before the Zorath. But now, Earth was nothing more than a battlefield, and the Zorath's war machines rained fire on the cities. Maya had seen enough. She was done hiding in the shadows. She was ready to show the Empire what real power was. With the help of Caleb, a former soldier, and Sarah, a brilliant hacker, Maya led a team of rebels to infiltrate the heart of the Zorath's control. Their goal was simple: strike at the core of the Empire's power at Central Command Station. The Zorath relied on their massive supercomputers to control their armies, their fleets, and even the very people they had enslaved. If they could destroy the central system, the Empire would collapse. But getting there wasn't easy. The Central Command was located on the most heavily fortified planet in the galaxy, a place where no one had ever dared to approach. The Zorath's defenses were impenetrable, and their forces were overwhelming. Still, Maya believed there was a way. The key was to exploit the one thing the Zorath couldn't predict: the sheer willpower of humanity. "Caleb, Sarah, are we ready?" Maya asked, staring out at the stars. Her voice was calm, but the fire inside her burned bright. "Today, we show them what it means to underestimate us." They had stolen a Zorath ship, using Sarah's skills to bypass security systems, and now they were headed straight for the heart of the enemy's fortress. Every moment felt like a risk, but Maya couldn't back down now. The fate of Earth was in her hands. As they approached the planet, the Zorath's massive defense fleet surrounded them. Their ships swarmed the skies, their weapons primed for battle. It seemed like the end for the rebels. But Maya wasn't afraid. She knew what she had to do. "We won't fight them with weapons," Maya said, turning to her team. "We fight them with what they don't understand. We fight them with our hearts." The Zorath were not prepared for this. They had always relied on technology, on machines, to win battles. But humanity had something stronger than any weapon. They had determination, resilience, and an unbreakable will to fight for their freedom. As Maya and her team landed on the planet's surface, they activated the ship's cloaking system and sneaked through the outer defenses. The Zorath soldiers patrolled the area, but they were too focused on their own power to notice the rebels slipping past. Every step they took brought them closer to the Central Command, and the tension in the air grew thicker. "This is it," Caleb whispered as they reached the main control tower. "We destroy this, and it's over for them." Maya nodded. But as they approached the control panel, they were ambushed. The Zorath had discovered their presence, and their soldiers stormed the hallway, guns aimed at the rebels. It looked like they would be captured, but Maya wasn't going to give up now. "Sarah, now!" she yelled. With lightning speed, Sarah hacked into the Zorath's security system, shutting down the alarms and sending out false information to the enemy's commanders. The soldiers hesitated for a moment, unsure if they were dealing with a trap. That was all the time the rebels needed. Caleb rushed forward, knocking out the first soldier, and Maya took out the others with swift, precise movements. The room was silent once more, but their job wasn't done. Maya rushed to the control panel, her fingers flying over the keys as she input the sequence to destroy the central system. The countdown began. "This is it," Maya said. "We've won. The Empire is finished." But as the countdown reached 0, something unexpected happened. The central system didn't just shut down. It unleashed a pulse of energy, sending a wave of destruction across the entire planet. The Zorath's power began to crumble, their ships falling from the sky as their systems failed one by one. It wasn't just a defeat for the Empire, it was their complete and utter destruction. The rebels barely escaped the planet's surface before the explosion sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Earth's secret weapon, The power of human will had been unleashed, and the Zorath Empire was no more. As Maya and her team watched the sky burn, they knew this was only the beginning. They had shown the galaxy the true power of humanity. The Zorath had thought they could rule the universe, but they had never understood one simple truth: no matter how powerful an empire may be, it can never defeat the will of a people fighting for their freedom. And now, the universe would never forget the day humans taught the empire what true power is.